Hey everyone, you are listening to the podcast Trust the Process, a safe space where you will hear from us women balancing their fitness and health while life goes on. Balanced diet, muscle gain, fat loss, new motherhood, getting back in shape, menopause onset, and so much more. And you are tuned into the latest episode, Fasting Demystified, what every woman needs to know. And this is your host, Yasha, based in Singapore, professionally a cloud and AI technologist, a visual artist, a wife, a mother, a dog mom, and most importantly, a fitness enthusiast, often indulge into running, heavyweight lifting, high rocks, and other races.
And this is Shanti, based in Malaysia, a cybersecurity specialist, a wife, a mom to two boys and one dog, a budding Veena player, an avid reader, a globetrotter, and of course, a fitness enthusiast. And I'm very happy to be a part of this Trust the Process fitness podcast along with Yasha, which has been a passion project. So please don't forget to subscribe to us. We are on all the channels: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Audible, and now on YouTube. And I'm very glad we are diving into a topic that's been on everyone's lips lately, that is fasting. Is it just another wellness trend, or is there real science and tradition behind it? So let's dive into that, right? So for me personally, Yasha, fasting has always been fascinating. Like growing up, I saw it practiced in cultural and religious ways, whether during Navratri, Ramadan, or Lent. But recently, I started noticing it popping up in health conversations for weight loss, for better focus, and even for longevity. So, today, let's explore fasting, what it really means, the different approaches, and how it can impact women's health in particular.
Agreeing with you, it's a hot favorite topic in the health industry these days. And some very well known doctors, health practitioners have spoken about this along with a lot of data. However, fasting isn't new, right? It's been part of human history for thousands of years. Like you mentioned, Chanti, every culture has its version, sometimes for spiritual cleansing, sometimes simply because food wasn't always available. And in many ways, our bodies are designed for periods of eating and periods of rest. And like everything else, our body follows a cycle. Be it is a sleeping cycle, rest cycle, women's cycle. Similarly, believe it or not, for food also our bodies have a cycle to follow. But I would say modern life has changed that. Now, most of us eat from the moment we wake up until late at the night, yeah. And that constant snacking and availability of food is actually quite new for our biology. And that's why fasting is making a comeback in health circles. It's going back to what our bodies were naturally designed to do. I mean, for some of us.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be some deep topic today. And we are here to cover a lot of aspects related to fasting, starting with types of fasting, reasons, as well as who needs and who should not fast. We will use our own examples of fasting, both from spiritual reasons as well as health focused fasting. And most importantly, what we know about fasting for women. Well, although as you mentioned, fasting is still related to human physiology, still, like everything else, it's a lesser studied topic among women, right? Or we can say that the research and data are less focused on women. Therefore, we will try to throw some light on the fasting do's and don'ts, especially for women, with a special focus on perimenopausal women. We will also be able to advise a practical framework of fasting that has worked, or at least what we have seen working.
Yeah, the data we are going to bring is well researched and consulted with experts. However, this by no means to be taken as prescription, please. Our bodies are all different. We can definitely get ideas, but I would like us to be curious and find what works for our bodies, not just blindly follow every advice. Um, Before we start, Shanti, I want to say something. We all know that medicine and science evolves continuously, right? Science is actually probabilistic, it's not absolute. And even facts that feel like certainties are grounded in probabilities. Therefore, nothing should be considered as written in stone or never changing. So, what we say today is based on certain data, while it could change a bit in future. Hence, such science topics are ever evolving. So I think, okay, with that disclaimer on, let's proceed, Shanti.
Perfect. Over with the disclaimers. So that's a very important one indeed. We are going to talk about fasting, and Yasha, I'm sure we will touch base on intermittent fasting too. Remember how we both mentioned earlier that we didn't like it, we felt caged into that restrictive dieting cycle in our previous episodes, which is what was our experience. But by no means we are saying that it's not working for everyone, right? So, yeah, I know what you mean when you put that disclaimer out there. So, thank you for that. So, without further delay, let's dive in. Since you just mentioned we should be curious about what works and what not, I thought we will keep today's episode in a query format. There will be a question and there will be an answer. So, are you game for that?
That sounds fun. Especially, we want to make this deep topic very interesting for our listeners. So, yeah, I'm ready. Let's dive in.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with the basics. What are the different types of fasting? Is it not only about not eating, or are there other ways to fast as well? Right? So, personally, for me, I think what didn't work for me was a day long fasting. Like if I give during the day when I need my most energy for, and if I would do a full fasting, that really didn't work for me, and it would in fact turn into an acidic problem for my gut, right? But if I eat at regular intervals, not like hogging, but if I still eat at regular intervals and give a proper sunset to sunrise fasting time, it works for me. So I'm really curious about your way and your mantra for the fasting thing. So let's go with the basics.
Right. And it I will give my mantra, my flavor as well, but let's get into the basics, as you said, basics of fasting. So right, typically fasting is related to not eating. However, most famous ones that you rightly said are doing rounds in the industry. If we speak about marketing health industry, are intermittent fasting, OMAD, that is one meal a day. And I think in one of our episodes we had listed a lot of diets that are in fashion. Um, what would you say if I tell you that we do fasting every day, rather every night, and you just spoke about it? 90% of population sleeps for at least 5 to 6 hours, and that's where they fast. So our bodies are made to rest and fast from food, and we spoke about the cycle part. It can repair the damaged cells and keep up with body during that fasting phase every night. So this is how we are naturally designed, and actually, that's the natural fasting every day.
So that's the basic fasting, right? But as you rightly said, Yasha, modern way of living has really twisted this whole thing, I believe, because some people don't even give that much time to their bodies. They eat late and they keep eating until they go to bed, and they sleep very late too, and they are continuously harming their own body cycles, right? And I really wonder where is the time for the body to repair when they're not giving time? Don't you think
Exactly.
so?
Exactly. So that's the basic fasting for everyone. You're right. Now, some people make use of that natural fasting and increase the timeline either side to make it intermittent fasting, right? Which could leave an 8 hour window of eating, or a 10 hour, or even 6 hours of eating for some of them. So it's just that they are reducing the time window of eating, and that's called as time restricted fasting. So there I will speak about different types of fasting. Another type of fasting is calorie restricted fasting, which I am doing right now on my fat loss program, meaning you are only eating certain food or certain combinations in a calorie deficit diet. There goes your famous keto diet with high fat, low carb, or carnivore diet, or such other kinds like high protein diet as well when you're building muscles. Now, there's another set of people who do longer fast, like once or twice 24-hour water fasting in a week, or some people go for extreme, like a 7 day, or I know a few people who are also going for 15 or 30 days water fasting, and no, they're not sick or they're not going through any disease, but even normal people, some of them are practicing that.
I know about this long fasting, specifically for people fighting certain diseases like cancer or autoimmune, where they starve the cells by making them devoid of nutrition. Yeah. However, I recently also came to know some normal people are also doing such fast just for health reason or to detoxify. I think once a week is still fine, but I don't think normal people without much of health issues or without actual proper guidance should indulge into 15 to 30 days of water fasting. I actually have a Jain friend. She does this 15 to 30 days of water fasting, and she's absolutely glowing after even after so many days of just boiled water. And I'm like, and she comes to the office, and it's a very religious thing. They do it as a community, right? And I'm like, wow, I can't imagine even doing it for like 1 day or 2 days in a row. But yeah, there's things like that. Yeah.
So there you go, right? Normal people fasting for spiritual reasons. Yeah, and but these days people think they know everything as internet is feeding us. Not talking about your friend, because I think that's a spiritual practice and they might have customized their body around that. I have a colleague who has big eating habits. It's a funny story. I'm just quoting his example because a lot of us can relate to this story. This colleague of mine is big. Big structure. So we understand he has big appetite, but he eats food for like six people in one go. And then he says, "Oh, it's okay. I will water fast for 30 days." So that's fine. And he literally goes on water fasting with lemon water, black coffee, and he says that it's worth fantastic for him. I was also asked to join his group, but I politely declined. It's not my cup of tea until I try. Well, I'm sure he's taking guidance, hopefully supplementing his body with electrolytes and other minerals, checking frequently. But I'm just saying that I don't think you can trade off overeating with fasting. That's really not healthy.
That doesn't sound healthy to me. Sounds a little scary, though. It looks like a major cyclical eating, right? There is a pattern here. And I don't know, you politely declined, but I would really never dare to do it. Definitely. But then we also have religious fasting, right? Like for our Muslim friends during Ramadan, it's like an intermittent fasting completely. And also for Christians, the Lent season goes in a very similar way. And Yasha, you do Navratri fasting as well, like 9 days, 2 times a year. Would that be intermittent or water fasting? I'm very curious to know. We didn't discuss that.
Yeah, mine would be a mix of intermittent as well as unintentional calorie restricted dieting or fasting because yes, I eat only in evening once a day, so you can call it OMAD, but also certain food, so it automatically sends me to calorie deficit because during this religious fasting we abstain certain kind of food. And this year, I'm preparing for my body photo shoot, so a high protein, low carbs diet. I will have to see how to not restrict much needed macros or calories. So yeah, it's gonna be tricky.
Tricky and interesting. I'm really curious about that. Like, how maybe next time on we might have to do a whole episode on how you manage that. And while we say religious is spiritual cleaning, it's all related to our bodies and food cycle, right? Our ancestors might have invented this fasting probably to be able to focus on spirituality and not being distracted with materialistic things like food. But the whole idea, I guess, was around the repair of the body, giving our gut a chance to clean and to detoxify, right? So let's now dive into what are the reasons people do fasting. Are there any real benefits? Is there anything else you want to add, Yasha?
Yeah, let's do that. And yeah, just before I forget, I am putting my everyday diet on Instagram. Trust the process. Why? Because a lot of friends are asking, "Hey, what's new today? What are you eating?" Because they are also observing the same fast. So I thought, hey, why not? I just do a community service by putting the food out. So yeah, check that out. So Benefits. Look, I would like to divide benefits that we talk about into two categories. First one, where I have practical and evidence-based results from experimenting on my own body and others. That's research-based. So that let's start with the first because that's easier, right? And I'll be more confident in talking about it. So number one, are also my favorite, reduce body inflammation. So, a combination of resistance training or any form of exercise, along with time or even calorie restricted fasting, gives an immediate set of results. And I've seen that in my case. Um, of course, I'm not including heavy cardio over here because that leads to consumption of more carbs and makes you hungry, and you tend to eat more. So, yeah, that's number one. You can see visible results like falling sick less frequently, shine in your skin, better mood, high energy. Um, all are the signs of lower inflammation in your body. And I have observed that. Number two, it helps balance insulin. And no, I'm not talking about diabetic people, but people like us, right? And it gives our body a break from constant sugar spikes. The sudden rush that we often feel in normal humans, which is related to spikes of high energy versus a sudden slump in energy, that can all be reduced and maintain a stable state in body, and it's very important, right? This is especially helpful for diabetic people, yes, and people with cardiovascular diseases. My aunt was diabetic, and she used to control every grain that went in her mouth according to the time and the day of the hour. But it certainly helps people like us, like without people who do not have diabetes, um, not to give the unusual spikes and slumps to our bodies.
Right. Yeah, I mean, many people report better focus and mental clarity when they fast. My husband also fasts once a week. He does every Thursday. He gives a 24-hour window before he eats the next meal, and he says he's never felt better. And yeah, but something believable is that certain gut disorders can certainly be treated with an optimum way of fasting. But if it's a disorder, I would say, please, it has to be guided by your health practitioner. We've also talked about yo-yo diets earlier, Yasha. So we named some of those diets that people follow for quick fixes. So not to get anyone confused, we are talking about certain ways of fasting, but not starving to reduce your weight. While I think done right, fasting can support weight management without calorie counting. And of course, that would be time restricted or calorie restricted diets. Right, Yasha?
Absolutely. And fasting certainly activates something called autophagy, which is basically your body's cleanup mode for old cells. So there you go, with shining eyes and brighter skin that we talked about and happy energy, only after a certain time period of body in fasting state. Autophagy, if for example, necessarily kicks in after a certain number of hours of fasting, usually a very common term when you take your body to ketosis state, a technique practiced while treating certain diseases like cancer. While we are definitely not suggesting that for whoever is not diagnosed with those diseases, it's cell cleansing for regular fasting, increases body energy, again by reducing inflammation and healing our inner organs. Some animal and test tube studies suggest that fasting could block tumor development and increase the effectiveness of chemotherapy also. And I know that from a friend's parent who unfortunately was going through the disease, and they were sharing the same story.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. That was a bit intense, but also very helpful as a natural practice to treat or heal these diseases. And I learned a new word, autophagy. Also, what do you think, Yasha? I'm very interested to know, does fasting delay aging and increase longevity as well? I think we touched upon that at the start of this episode. In fact, there are so many longevity experts talking about less is more when it comes to food. What do you think?
Oh, that's the hottest topic, right? These days. Not only longevity experts, but just last week, I saw news of a famous actor acknowledging in public that he only gets one meal a day and supplements, etc., along with daily resistance training and other exercises that keeps him fit and still wanted in the industry at an age of 57 years.
Wow. Wow. I think I know. I've read the news. I think we follow the same news cycle of celebrities. But yeah, we love our food, but and everything works in moderation. Now, I don't know if less is more fits here, but I think the key is to listen to your body. What does it need, right? I think that's the key.
It does. Hence, it is very customized, each to their own. Fasting has been associated with a lower risk of coronary heart diseases, and may help in lower blood pressure, triglycerides, and cholesterol levels. Because fasting also help relieve inflammation. Oh, I'm telling that for the fourth time, I guess. It could also aid in preventing neurodegenerative disorders. I was a bit cautious, long word. In particular, animal studies suggest that fasting may protect against and improve outcomes for conditions such as Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's. Um, and it is published in journals, medical journal, National Library of Medicine. So yes, you were talking about delaying aging, or call it longevity. Beating the age-related diseases and a long, healthy life can be attributed to eating right. We all know that. But the phases of fasting, as and when required, obviously customized to your own body, could help because of all these reasons that we spoke about. By the way, studies also show that fasting can increase level of human growth hormone, HGH, an important protein hormone that plays a role in growth, metabolism, weight loss, and muscle strength. It's so interesting, right?
Very interesting. And I've been fasting for the last 30 minutes now. I'm not going to count the black coffee I'm having right now, but yeah, I think you're also practicing patience for your ongoing Navratri fasting, right? So let's be real. Fasting isn't always easy. Socially, it can be tricky. Like imagine going to a friend's dinner, and or going saying no to the dinner invite in the first place, right? Because your eating window has closed, or dealing with a family who thinks skipping meals is unhealthy. And yes, hunger waves are real, but I think they often pass after a few minutes. So you just have to be a little patient with that, right?
Oh, there are 10,000 thoughts in my head right now, Shanti, plus hunger. No, you're not supposed to say that. You're so, so right. We are all humans after all, and we do feel urge to break everything and succumb to those cravings, but and especially at certain point of the time in your cycle, monthly cycle. But that's the point where your mental grit will come handy. If you are doing a program, if you're doing a certain, a certain health practice, etc. And if you are following a goal, then stick to it. If your fasting or restrictive diet is just for fun or trial, then listen to your body and nourish it. There is no harm in doing that once in a while. However, that should not break your usual discipline.
Oh, yeah. A mental grit. That's what you said, right? Well, that's the hardest thing. Okay. Now let's speak about the disadvantages of fasting, if any. Like, are there any things to be watchful for? In fact, I have two topics with me that I want to bring to the discussion, Yasha. One, the weight regain and the potential metabolic consequences of fasting. Like we talked about yo-yo dieting, of course. And what if, like your colleague from Berlin, they are using fasting as a tool to hog on first, then worry with the water fast? That story is still like, sticking to my brain. I'm curious to know, does the weight bounce back and does it disrupt our metabolism?
Definitely, it can go wrong, Shanti. Your concern is legitimate. And I have myself done a lot of research on this topic while doing different types of, calorie restricted or time restricted fasting. We don't want people to use fasting as a hack. And that's why I told that story. I'm still laughing. I mean, you're still laughing from that. Oh, let's commit a crime and then ask for sorry. You know what I mean? Fasting without intention can cause this. It can be time restricted eating. For example, you are eating in a certain window, but you are over consuming, or let's say calorie restricted dieting, but without a sustainable plan. Example, you don't feel satisfied, your macros are not proper, then you are craving forever and falling in that trap of finishing your fasting and going back to the old ways. If that happens, then yes, you will not reap the benefits at all.
Yeah, I like that fasting with intention. That's a really powerful phrase, right? And it's also an agreeable topic. Now, this is a bit technical, but I would like to dive into this way where what are the risks of lean mass loss with fasting? Because I'm particularly curious about your journey at the moment, right? You're building muscles as we speak, Yasha, and also you're doing the fasting this entire 9 days. Are you worried? Like, if there is there a plan that you are trying to mitigate it?
Well, yes, it's very technical, and I was worried, but I'm slowly, gradually learning about it as well. And you learn about your own body a lot when you play around with the bodies. I was discussing it recently with my wonderful trainer, Viva, who I train with at Ultimate Performance in Singapore. He practices Ramadan and he's also preparing to appear in a bodybuilding competition. And we were discussing this very topic recently. Ramadan, as you're aware, is a month long fasting, a kind of intermittent fasting. His experience in past years was that it's natural to lose muscles when you're fasting. But he mentioned that this year he maintained his muscle mass by eating right and focusing on his training and eating around that, which is so wonderful, right? So while I was worried earlier for my upcoming 9 days fast, it will halt my progress of building muscles, and now I'm not. I mean, I'm not so concerned after having that discussion. Um, because if I eat the right macros and still keep up with my training, I think it will not deteriorate, if not improve. At least I can maintain. Having said that, Shanti, if fasting is done for health reasons, then it should be around your goal. And I'm reiterating that. That is, if you are into building and retaining muscles, you necessarily won't benefit from time restricted fasting. You rather feed yourself around your workout. If you are looking to reduce fat percentage, then yes, calorie restricted fasting will work wonderful. If you are healing from a disease and want to get into autophagy, the fasting will help as well. So it depends, right? Sorry for long-winded answer, but Shanti, it was a very good question. And this discussion is gold. I don't think a lot of us get into this thinking, but I think we should be aware.
No, please don't be apologetic about your wonderful answer. I think it was very much required. We needed to hear all about it, right? And I think by now our audience will agree that we ought to bring sensible topics and discussions on the table, not just to very good looking, chirpy ladies having fun. So, yeah, I definitely agree that this discussion was gold. And indeed, we need to get deeper into the topic. But I think that's all the agenda for the next year as well, that we're going to get even more good technical topics to trust the process, right? Let's also cover who should actually avoid fasting. Well, I guess pregnant ladies or growing teens or kids. And yeah, I think we already discussed about people with certain conditions, right?
Yeah. Um, I mean, teens these days, they're becoming obese and often get an advice of controlled eating. But what I found working with my teen, um, that exposure to physical activity overrides the diet any day. And so there's one section of teens who are getting into that obese phase, but there is another section of growing young adults who are also very, very aware, and they are getting into some random diets. So we can't encourage kids to eat junk or fried food and sugar laden treats, but yes, instead of fasting, I would say calibrated eating for them, and of course no fasting for pregnant ladies, because I'm very sure they are advised by their doctors, that what should they eat, which supplements they should have, and they should enjoy that phase. And people with conditions, until their own health practitioner advises them to. I mean, they should not listen to the podcast and follow a certain diet, of course.
Right. And I thought the same too. But if people have to take away a practical framework for using fasting as a strategy to improve body composition, I think that is what we need to discuss in the end, right? What would that be, and specifically for women?
Well, yeah, you saved the diamond for the end, I guess. Well, addressing the topic for fasting and women is huge, and we can spend the whole episode on that, but let's cover it in quickly, right? Especially women over 40, as it's not simple for women. So, for women, we are playing with tons of different hormones and a monthly cycle where every few days there's a different hormone acting on our bodies. Unlike men, where they do have cycles of hormones, but that fluctuates within months rather than days. It's, for example, for us it's changing every few days. For them, it might fluctuate in few months or few weeks. So for men, they will immediately see benefits or disadvantages of fasting on their bodies, while for us women, first of all, we'll go mad thinking whether it's working or not, because if you take a month, a certain month, we have four different phases, right? And I don't want to get too technical, but certain time of the month we have high estrogen, hence high energy. Fasting or anything will work wonderfully. However, when we are in luteal phase and in high progesterone phase, fasting can be detrimental. So, and for women, working out in fasting state also doesn't work, as it increases the cortisol levels. So lately I have been very cautious, and I always eat within an hour and half of waking up. I take my protein coffee as the first kick in the day. I add little protein powder into that, not an empty black coffee at all now, and always go for my workout, be it a run or heavyweight lifting, after eating something. I don't do it in fasting state. And all women should preferably start the day with a protein heavy breakfast. We can go on and on, Chanti, on this topic, but yeah, I'll keep it to the this short for now.
Well, I would have saved this question for an entire episode, Yasha. You know what I mean? It is very interesting to deep dive into the physiologies of our own bodies. And I'm so glad we are learning each day while we experiment with our own body, of course, under guidance. I think we women are a completely different category, like so complex, yet so simple and sweet. Well, apart from that, another complex category could be people with conditions, right? So let's talk us before we dive into anything else.
Yeah, definitely. Without getting into a lot of conditions, I mean, we are not doctors for sure. If we start basic, there could be various fasting methods. For example, autoimmune diseases. There could be potential symptom relief with cautious application. I have two family members in my house who are suffering from chronic, long-term autoimmune disorder, and I have seen immense benefits from certain ways of fasting on them, just by time as well as calorie restricted diet. One of those had almost controlled their condition and got their hormone dose to a minimum level for maintenance. It's Hashimoto, by the way, which I thought was very, very powerful. So it's all about eating right and eating at a certain time, and fasting also helps.
Wow, that is indeed the power of fasting. So I think looking back, our ancestors in all the cultures, all the countries have not created these regular fasting periods for nothing, right? They must have tried and tested and hence rolled out the framework, even in the name of religious or spiritual practices. I think our ancestors were very clever.
I like that, rolled out a framework. If we can stick to that on annual basis, and we are also finding that experimenting on our own bodies, right?
Absolutely. Okay, Yasha. So I think we have covered a lot and it's time for some fun again. Now, there are also a lot of myths around fasting. So let's debunk those in our rapid fire, right? Let's go. One, breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Well, I can't answer it rapidly, but it depends on who you are and your lifestyle. But having just spoken about perimenopausal women and all women in general, it's not a good idea to fast long in morning hours. One should have something, especially if one has an active lifestyle.
Yep, absolutely. And two, fasting makes you lose muscle.
Well, yes, it can, but not true if you're eating enough protein when you break your fast.
Awesome. And then fasting slows your metabolism permanently.
Research shows short fasts do not harm metabolism.
Okay, that's a relief. That's good to hear. Okay, this one is interesting. Fasting makes you overeat.
Well, it can if you're doing it forcefully, while mindful eating is important here, fasting with intention. Goal is often not to compensate for the fasting period, but to nourish the body properly.
Okay, but last one, and don't laugh at this, huh? Fasting is the quickest way to earn God's blessings.
You tell Shanti. I don't know its quickest way or not, but I definitely feel closer to my spiritual powers when I observe fasting, especially during religious periods.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. Like, if people can create healthy food habits in the name of earning God's love, then why not, right? Okay, with that, we come to an end to this wonderful episode on fasting. Hope it was insightful for those who were afraid of any kind of fasting and knowledgeable for those who wanted to understand the fasting do's and don'ts at a practical level. Don't forget to subscribe to us, and if you like this episode, please do send it to your friends who might like it. Do subscribe to our latest YouTube channel in addition to your existing Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. I bet you would love our new shiny YouTube channel.
I'm sure about that, 100%. And until the next episode, eat mindfully and fast intentionally. Trust the process and have fun.
Bye bye.